As far as I know. That's just.
I call the meeting to order. You want to lead us in invocation?
Heavenly Father, I thank you right now for this mere gift of life today that you've given each and every one of us here today. I thank you for all who are present in this place today. Holy Spirit, I ask for your guidance in all of the matters concerning this township this day. In the name of Jesus, let your grace and favor and mercy be upon all of us today. In Jesus' name.
Amen. If you join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have roll call, and at least for now, and probably for the whole meeting, Christy is going to be acting as the clerk at the roll call because Heather had an unexpected emergency. Everything's fine, but she had to go out. So roll call if you would, Christy.
Michael,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Jeff,
Here.
Nola,
Present.
Heather absent, Scott absent, and Christy here.
Perfect. Next, we have the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make the motion to approve the agenda.
Motion, do we have support? Support by Lee. Any questions on the board? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have approval of past meeting minutes. This is August 12th, 2024. Regular board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Michael to approve. Do we have a support?
Support.
Support by Nola. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the treasurer's report. Report is publicly available in the packet. Any questions from the board on it? All right, we will place that on file. Next, we have paying the bills. We did reduce this slightly before. It was doing every invoice individually. This categorizes them by who we are paying or who the transactions are occurring with. So it shrunk it down a little bit.
I make the motion to pay the bills.
Motion by Nola, do we have support?
Support.
Support by Christie. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes,
Nola, yes, Christy, yes.
motion passes. Next, we have the fire department report, if you would, chief.
84 calls last month, really out of the ordinary. Everything's been going pretty smooth. We just had our engines pump tested today. They both passed with flying colors. There's going to be an issue. A couple little minor repairs here and there, but nothing expensive. The only thing we have coming up, obviously, is Wednesday, October 9th will be our annual open house from 6 to 8. We hope that all the citizens will join us, and obviously the board and their families. This will be another one of those unique years because it is a election year. So I know I have tons of politicians, and like I said before, say it again, is that I have no problem with politics being in the firehouse, but you leave my staff alone. It happened one year and I won't allow it again. My staff will be happy to take pictures with you, do anything you want, but they have a responsibility to the citizens. And they don't need to be political puppets. You want me to be the puppet, I'll be the puppet. Leave them alone. And I'll say that again, and I'll say it openly that night that I don't want no problem again, but people like to take them out of their job role for that night. It's a very busy night for us. We average 600 to 700 people in 2 hours. We don't have the time to stop and do some of those things. So again, I'm there for that reason only. So I just ask that everybody come out and enjoy the night. It looks like tentatively the weather's supposed to be decent, but we know things change. But other than that, it's been quite well, and we're pretty excited. Things are going smooth. Can't complain.
Excellent. And next we have the fire department hiring, if you would, Chief.
Correct. I'd just like to hire Justin Kubiak. He's a young gentleman that applies as a part-time firefighter. I'd just like to have your approval to put him on as a conditional hire once he passes all the stuff and start his MFR and fire academy in the next few weeks.
Do we have a motion?
Is he here this evening?
No, he's not. I don't bring them in for this because this isn't a swearing in. This is just your approval to hire them, put them on the payroll.
Well, I move to approve the hiring of Justin Kubasek as a part-time firefighter for the Dalton Township Fire Department.
Motion by Noah. Do we have support?
I'll support.
Support by Michael. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Christie, yes. Jeff
Yes.
and Noah.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great.
Yeah, excellent to have new firefighters coming aboard.
Mhm.
Next, we have our planning commission report, if you would, Lee.
We met September 3rd. We postponed it from August 27th because of some scheduling issues. And some stuff on the agenda. But there's only 2 agenda items. Zoning change 24-04 for 2987 Pillen for change from R1 to ag, rezone. It's a current horse farm, potential for a wedding venue in the future, and motion for board approval, which that's on our agenda item later. Second was a ordinance amendment, public hearing, minimum roof pitch. There's a review of our draft ordinance to remove the roof pitch requirement. We thought the planning commission doesn't really have the authority. It's a building inspector, as long as it meets building code, be fine. We shouldn't be dictating what roof pitch should be. Motion approved to recommend the board to adopt the proposed change.
Thank you. Next, we have the planning and zoning report, if you would, Steve.
In August, I approved 14 zoning permits, 4 of which were new houses, 7 were for accessory buildings. In regards to enforcement actions, we investigated 11 cases. 7 of those cases were closed or resolved. 1 is in partial compliance and will be monitored going forward to make sure cleanup continues.
Excellent, thank you. Next, we have our maintenance and grounds reports, if you would, Justin.
Couple weeks back, I had attended a conference at the Michigan Association of Municipal Cemeteries. It was pretty informative, and I'm looking forward to hopefully learning how to restore headstones if the residents would like me to. As far as the parks go, Hammock, Tulpa, Duff, Bike Path, Twin Lakes Sign, and Oakland Cemetery are all being maintained. Today, we went around a big old sports park and had continued taking care of the brush cleanup from that storm back in May. It's almost complete. The equestrian trail, we had installed some mountain blocks, replaced 2 hitching posts, and added a picnic table in the parking lot. The transfer station got a new building out there to help keep the crew warm in the winter time, and I'm pretty excited about this small porch out there to keep them dry in the rain as well. Twin Lake Cemetery, we had a light replaced to shine up on flags and the Veterans Memorial. So that's going pretty good and everything's going smooth.
Perfect, thank you. Next, we have the cemetery report, and Heather wrote this up and has included it. So the Twin Lake Cemetery is still in the process of getting the roads done, should be in a few weeks. Oakland is going to have surveying to get a good layout of the property, potential for remapping this year for Oakland Cemetery. Justin and I, as in Heather, went to the annual MAMC conference for municipal cemeteries. We learned lots and were able to take home some valuable information. Next year's budget, I would like to look at an increase in education for Justin to participate in training to be certified in monument restoration. This would be a huge asset to our community and surrounding communities. She breaks down some of the finances for the month. Next, we have visiting official and candidate updates. I know there are a few in the room. One, County Commissioner's here. If you want to come up, say your piece, and then leave us.
Yeah, this is the third meeting I've had in the last 3 hours, so. Okay, what I wanted to share briefly, the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission has been chosen as the commission that is going to overlook the new solid waste rules that have come down from the state. It includes, I believe, 5 counties, Muskegon, Newaygo, Kent, Oceana, maybe another one there. I forget. I didn't have the official thing in my card today. So what this basically means is they have what their target is going to be is for solid waste. They have like a triangle. It has, okay, at the top of the triangle, these are the things we really want to do. And then the bottom of the triangle is, let me just read some of these for you. Number 1, we want to reduce the amount of waste going into the landfill, lower the amount of toxicity of unwanted materials produced. We want to reuse what we can, use materials again and again instead of buying new, repurpose, upcycle items no longer needed for the original purpose, recycle, use unwanted materials to make new products, recover, use discarded materials to create energy, and last but not least is to put stuff in the landfill. So we're going to try to get rid of recycle and plan is to do all of that kind of stuff, and so that less material actually ends up in the landfill. So I've seen some of the information here. It's going to probably be very, it's a 2-year program. So it's probably going to be pretty intense, and it's the cost of waste is definitely not going down. It's definitely going to go the other direction. So I just want to share that with you guys so you know what's coming down the pike here. I am the county commissioner for this area, and I've really enjoyed serving you guys. I am going to run again for office, much to the chagrin of my wife. But anyway, so I really appreciate it if you guys would, if you live on a busy road, by the way, you'd like to support me. I've got some yard signs. Just saying. So it's been a joy serving you guys, and I appreciate your vote for me. And you guys, anybody that doesn't vote for me, I love you guys anyway.
Thank you, Miles.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
And I know that, Michael, you wanted to speak on something from a candidate's perspective. Yeah, we're going to step up to the lectern.
All right, so this is more of a public service announcement type of thing, so I'm not just speaking to the board, speaking to everybody. Just something to consider as we get closer to the election. A lot of people tend, well, I shouldn't say a lot, I don't know how many, but anyway, I imagine there are people that tend to vote straight party. And I'll just use myself and the trustees that are running for election this season as an example. Currently, we have 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats running for 4 positions. So for instance, if you decided to vote straight ticket Democrat, you're going to put 2 votes in for those 2 that are running for Democrat, but you will have no selection on the Republican side. I was told by the commission, the Elections Commission, that there is a way that they could do that you could actually go in and vote, even though you vote straight party. But I says, how many people are going to know how to do that? And the answer was not very many. So anyway, as you consider what you're going to do as the election comes closer, that's just one thing to keep in mind, that is if you do straight party, that you're going to lose out on voting for some people, and I'm sure that we're not the only ones statewide that fall into that category. Thank you.
Thank you. Was anyone here from the health department? No? Okay. They mentioned that they'll probably come to a meeting at some point. I invited them to this one, but maybe the next one. Yeah.
And you guys look, you don't want to take that. So, and I'm loud, so y'all hear me. I'm Stephanie Barrett. I'm running for Water Resources Commissioner, former Trade Commissioner's Office. I actually used to work for Dalton Township. I worked here for 8.5 years. I was the zoning administrator. During that time, I also was the deputy supervisor for 2 years, and I was the public works clerk for 4 years. When I left here, I went to what was then called the drain commissioner's office to start as the drain records clerk. I went in to help clean up the files, clean up the mess, get all the accounting in order, get the files in order, start digitizing everything. Within a year, I was the office manager. Within a year, I was the deputy. I was a deputy for over 7.5 years until I stepped down in 2021. It was during COVID times, didn't really tell a lot of people, but my husband, who was a trustee for Dalton Township, he was elected in for one term, he lost the next term, was appointed again the following, and was a trustee until we moved, but he passed away of cancer, and so I stepped down because I needed to be for a little while. So Brenda decided she wasn't going to run this year, and she asked me a couple years, she's like, please run, please run, please run. So I am running. I enjoy the job. I don't like the assessments, the hardest part of the job. But the part for me that I love is the public service. I love meeting with people. I love explaining the history and the whys. And even when I was here at the township, people would come in and they'd be so mad about zoning. And I was like, but let me tell you why. And I would tell them about the rules and I would tell them about the regulations. And I'm like, you might not like the answer at the end of the day, but at least you'll know why. I was doing the same thing in the Water Resources Commissioner's office, and I still want to do that. And I want to have more community involvement. I think it's really important. And I'm going to have an open door policy because that's just me. So I would appreciate your vote. And if anybody else wants my cards, I have more with me, but it's up to you if you want me to stick around to the end or not. I will, or I will scooch, but it's up to you.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Oh, thank you.
Any other candidates, officials, want to make a statement? Otherwise, we're moving into our first public comment section. Anyways, any public comments on agenda items? Anyone want to come up?
Thank you, Bill Scott, 296 East Daniels. First of all, as far as the zoning report, I'd like to thank you for your cleanup efforts. Everybody knows I'm about blight, about cleaning up blight in the township, and they're doing a good job across the street from me. They've already hauled out 2 junk cars, have a 30-foot dumpster, 30-yard dumpster. They're cleaning up. Thank you. Fire department report, I understand that the chief has a lot of zeal for his department, but I believe that there's a discrepancy in the board's rules and the fire chief's rules with regard to candidates. Candidates are allowed time by the board to introduce themselves, to get to know their constituents. I would think that would follow through the fire department as well. I was denied the right to even introduce myself when I ran. I think that's wrong because that's still a political office, but that office reports to you. After it reports to him, it reports to you. You guys run that department. So I would ask you to have some consistency there. Also, backup generator. I don't know if enough RFP was sent out for this or if consideration was given to township residents that are licensed electricians that can do this job. But I hope when you vote on this, that considerations were given to that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Anything else? Public comment? All right. We'll move on to our decision items. So first one being wastewater management committee members. And right near the end of the term, and I've been on this, and I picked up teaching a couple of classes for MCC. It conflicts with a couple of different meeting times. And, there's a case to be made about we're a very small customer. Our vote probably isn't going to sway a policy or the financial decisions of the wastewater management committee, but there are important things that happen there. And so we should have a representative on there. Some municipalities send their head of the Department of Public Works, but in those cases, they're usually doing some of that work in-house, whereas we really aren't. So it's policy and financial decisions, and it makes sense to have someone on there. One of the trustees is a legitimate choice if one of you wants to make time for it. But I have clarified with Christy and Heather that they're both willing to do it. Heather is a primary, Christy as an alternate if we want to go in that way. All right, otherwise I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve Heather Cooley as the primary and Christy Miles as the alternate to the wastewater management committee.
Support.
Motion support.
Yep.
Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Christie, yes.
I will make a note, I sent this to Christy and Heather already, but the schedule that was approved early on in the year, we're scheduled for 1:30, and that committee has changed it to 10 a.m. So versus the schedule in the packet, it's 10 a.m. instead. Next, we have add deputy clerk to bank account, and this is a hire for a new administrative assistant, a primary duty. Normally, the clerk would assign them as deputy clerk as well. And we want to get her added to the financial accounts, which is our Choice One bank account and our Michigan class account. I have it written up as two separate motions because financial institutions are particular to a certain extent. So,
I make a motion to add Angela Craig to the Choice One bank account.
motion by Noah, do we have support?
Support.
Support by Lee, any discussion among the boards? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes,
Christie, yes.
motion passes. And then next,
I make a motion to add Angela Craig to the Michigan class account.
motion by Noah, do we have support? I support. Support by Michael, any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Noah,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Christie, yes.
Yeah, oh, fine, I appreciate you doing it, so I don't have to also try to keep track of that. So, and Angela or Angie is catching on quickly. Obviously, there's a huge learning curve at the beginning of trying to figure out everything that is happening in the township at once. But she's doing well. Next, we have the backup generator, and we have a couple of quotes in here, and we have one public comment on this.
Mhm.
And so I ended up reaching out to 6 different places, and 2 of them were working together on getting quotes. And some of them are local to the area, some are from within the township. And so I do work with local electricians on that and local companies overall.
Mhm.
So, but I was really hoping that over the weekend after I released this packet, I would still get some other quotes, but I have not. And so we ended up with a quote from Belasco, which we had a while ago, and a quote from Lasco. And I know at least 2 trustees have worked on following up with some of the quotes and finding out some of their own information. I've done more reading on online message boards on the different brands that they use, like Kohler versus Honeywell and that type of thing. So Lasco said that they can get going on this almost right away. And they do have both a more expensive quote if a larger generator were to be used for this building and a smaller one for the maintenance building. But that larger capacity would largely be needed if you're running the 4 air conditioners on the roof in the summertime, which if you're without power for a few days in the summer, you can probably go without AC. I think that's probably fine. And then they have the lower quote if the smaller generators will work. Belasco just quoted the 26 kilowatt generators. So their quote came in as more expensive. It seems like people go in the direction of saying that the Kohler is a little more reliable, a little more industrial or commercial than the Honeywell. So there's not going to be made there. And they expect that it would probably take a few months to work out dealing with the utilities and everything. We'd have to have an upgraded meter for the gas meter to get everything installed. So I know Michael and Noah, I believe both at least talked with Belasco.
Mhm.
And Lasco did not get that with Michael. So other thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns?
So what was Belasco's time schedule? When would they anticipate being able to do it and be done?
About 2.5 months, right in there somewhere. So, I mean, still getting done this year. Now, Windemuller was another one that I talked to. They came out twice. And they brought up Boardwell and everything to look at everything. I told everyone about when I get the packet out and when the meeting was going to occur. They, though, didn't think it was realistic to get some in this year, which might be why I don't have a quote from them. But I know we're trying to move on it a little faster than that. Lasco basically gave an extremely fast time frame if we don't have to order the more expensive unit on the smaller units. They said they can move on it within a few days because they have it in stock in the warehouse. Lasco said realistically, probably a couple of months, 2.5 months.
So just for everybody and the board's knowledge, I called Belasco and talked to Robert Schultz, who's the one that did this bid, just to get some general information, because I don't know anything about these big generators. He did tell me that Kohler does make a commercial grade generator, so it's better than the Honeywell, thank you. Honeywell is made by Generac, same company. He also, I did quiz him about the fact that Lasco had mentioned that we might need a bigger generator for this building because of if everything was running at once, would that be able to handle it? I asked Robert about that, and he said that they actually took the time to pull a report from Consumer Energy about the usage over the last few years, and we've never exceeded that. So average usage, we should be fine with the one that they recommend. The Kohler comes with a 5-year parts and labor for 2 years, and then the remaining 3 years is parts only. They do offer a 10-year warranty, but we'd have to pay $1,200 to $1,300 per unit for that. So we may want to, if we did go that way, we wouldn't need to do that. The questions that I had, then I did call Lasco Friday, left a message, and they said they would get back with me by today. I haven't heard from anybody. I did try calling just before this meeting and nobody was available. So my question for me personally is on the Lasco bid, they bid 1 unit of the 26 kW for $19,000. And then they said that they would do 2 of those same units for $24,900. So $6,000 more to get 2. And I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I was just going to call and ask them some basic questions similar to what I asked Robert at Velasco. But anyway, the price is higher with Velasco, but you're getting a better product as far as I'm concerned. And I am aware of our budget, and I don't want to spend money that we shouldn't, that would go spend more than we need to, more than we should to. But all the reviews that I could see, generally speaking, the Kohler is a better unit than the Honeywell. And so my thinking is if it was my own house, I would be going with Kohler if I had those 2 choices. So anyway, that's my part.
Steve, and I should mention that I ended up with an email. Someone else must have emailed it to them for battery backups. EcoFlow emailed me and they just said we should use battery backups instead. I emailed them back. How much would that cost? And the guy did get back to me that it'd be $18,000 to install battery backups for the building. I asked how long would the battery backups go, and I didn't get, but that was very recently, but I didn't get a response to that. So,
well, and to answer, I mean, for me, many of you were in the same boat. I mean, I was out of power for 50 hours. So,
Wow.
if I hadn't, the battery's not going to cover you for 50 hours.
yeah, I mean, this building can take a decent amount of energy. The maintenance building doesn't consume a massive amount of energy, but this building is not tiny. Good. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas, comments?
Have you, this quote that you get, does that include your transfer switch also?
Yes.
It does, because otherwise that could be quite a large expense too.
Yep. Let me read to you what they said. And this is from Velasco. Actually, both of them were pretty much the same in regards to that. It's for a 26 kW, 22 kW natural gas Kohler air-cooled standby generator with a 200 amp automatic transfer switch. Price includes all labor, materials, generator, transfer switch, electrical connections, gas connections, carb heater, battery, setup, and testing. Now, the things that are not covered that Jeff and I discussed the other day was, we're going to have the gas company come out and make sure we have a proper meter to feed that. And there'll be some electrical, I imagine, as well. What else? Was there anything else?
With consumers, before when we had the power outages and everything, consumers said they might have to do some work because one pipe was cemented in the ground back there incorrectly. And then the guy from Boardwell and a couple of the other companies, I think, mentioned that the meter for the gas will probably have to be upgraded. So a couple of those utility things are outside of the scope of what the company's doing.
Another question, is your maintenance building back here then?
Correct.
And not being an expert electrician or all, but to having two generators to power two different buildings. One generator, the 24 kV you're talking about, maybe enough power for you to actually power your maintenance building and this building at that large of a generator, because I don't believe there's a lot of usage in the maintenance building if you are out of power.
I inquired into it. And so I inquired into it with all the different companies, and different people had different opinions on it. So in the one, Fluid Corthes was trying to figure out what, if they could go with one or if it would break down into two, and that would make sense. Blasco said they wouldn't even quote it as a single one because there's a separate electrical meter. They said it's not worth it. It makes more sense to install it as two separate ones as is. And so I did inquire with the companies on if that would make sense, because I thought that also might work. We ended up with split opinions. So, but both Lasco and Blasco thought there should be two units.
So the maintenance has its own meter.
It does. Yeah. So on the west side of the building, and this one's in the back, but the gas is on the east side and will have to be run under the snow. Or over the door, one of the two.
So I want to two, because they have 2 meters, they're separate things.
And they said it's odd because of the phases, you know, that because we have a 3-phase service here.
I'm interested to know what NOLA found out. Did you find out anything?
I just was finding out about the warranty because the quotation never said anything about the warranty.
Right.
So I was inquiring about that.
On the 5
And
year.
it basically is the same thing as Lasco, literally. 5
Yeah,
years parts, 1 year labor, except for this one gives 2 years labor.
Right, well, that's,
Lasco,
yeah,
that gives 2 years labor.
Yep.
Yeah. So you said that they had an extended warranty offered for 10 years?
10 years.
Or how much?
That would be labor and parts for 10 years, covers both of them.
Wow.
And sometimes Kohler sometimes will offer that throughout the year. And we might get lucky and they might offer that again, but right now they're not. But it's still, you're running $1,200 to $1,300 per unit for that additional coverage. Oh, that brings up another point. The gentleman, Robert from Velasco, did say to me that the Kohler units require less maintenance than the Honeywell. There is apparently yearly maintenance that needs to be done, so a little bit less on the Kohler.
I like that one. Personally.
Any other discussion on this, or is anyone up to making a motion?
Well, I do recognize that we don't want to pay more than we absolutely have to, but I think we should also be responsible and get a good unit. And so I would make a motion to approve the Velasco bid for the generator system for this main building and the maintenance building.
All right, motion by Michael. Do we have support?
I support that.
Support by Nolan. Any other discussion among the board?
Should we add in that the extended warranty?
If it becomes available, you mean? Because it sounds like there's certain time periods where.
But yeah, it's not free right now. I think her question is, do we want to add that into the?
Just as is. And that would depend on who's making the motion. If you want to make the motion that way and if you want to support.
You want to
No.
add in that?
What's the general thoughts?
I'm coming in at the tail end of this.
Yep.
I guess I'm altogether hesitant on the whole thing right now because of the cost and the financial situation that we may or may not be in. Like, there's so many unknowns. So looking at the cost, I'm like, do we really want to yes, I want to do it. Yes, there's good reason to do it. There's lots of I guess I'm just nervous about having that kind of money come out right now.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if it's something that we shouldn't budget into the next financial year. Then we'll know the audit will be done, things will be settled, and then we can take that big bite for this, because it is needed. It's definitely needed.
Right.
But I don't know, I'm just looking at the cost and that's my hesitance. I didn't catch the first part of what you guys discussed though.
But we discussed basically that the Kohler brand was a way better, requiring less maintenance on it. The other one would require more maintenance and would, it just doesn't have as good of a reputation as Kohler.
Yeah,
We do have money set aside.
that's my only,
In our in Michigan class.
That's what I would think.
Got money set aside for things like that too.
Yeah, the paperwork on our finances obviously needs to be sorted, which you're highly aware of since you're sorting it. I mean, as far as the finances themselves, we seem to be fine. But I understand the hesitancy. And as that, when we first pulled it up, do we want to do it this year, or do we want to budget for it next year?
yeah,
So
and I can add that
There's a
time.
motion and a second on the floor. This needs to be voted on.
that's correct, and I will decide when to call the vote.
Well, and we're still discussing about warranty as well.
Too late.
I
So
would like to add that extended warranty,
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
I would agree with that. Hearing the discussion down there at that end, I'm hearing that we do have the money available, correct?
We do,
Okay.
we have money in Michigan class. We
Okay.
don't get penalized by using it, but there is money set
The
aside.
treasurer's report comes from the money in the bank account.
So I will adjust my motion to what I said before, adding the 10-year warranty on both units with the hopes that it will be included, but if not, I would recommend that we pay for it.
All right, so you're withdrawing your first motion,
Yes.
making a motion to approve Belasco along with the 10-year warranty.
Yes,
Correct.
on both units.
Support.
And it's a support
Yep.
of the new motion. All right. Any other discussion among the board? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Lee?
No.
Christie?
Yes.
Nola?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Scott? Heather? No.
All right, motion passes. Next, we have the zoning ordinance for fruit. And Lee mentioned this in his report. Essentially, what was brought up is there was an exemption brought or an attempted exemption brought to the zoning board of appeals, but the zoning board of appeals thought it may be better to just adjust the ordinance. So they pushed it to the planning commission and went through the planning commission to be adjusted and is now to us.
So I make a motion to approve the ordinance under consideration for work requirements.
Motion by Noah, do we have a support? Support by Lee, any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Lee?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Nola?
Yes.
And Heather? Yes, and Scott is voting for.
Motion passes. Next, we have the zoning change also mentioned by Lee in his report, and this is to go from residential to ag. They have horses on the property and that type of thing, so current use makes sense. They're also pursuing, I think that's the primary thing, an events venue, and so it makes sense for it to be zoned like this. This is the one of several hoops that they'll have to jump through, but this is the start of that. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the ordinance under consideration for the zone change on the listed parcels.
Motion by Noah, do we have support? Support by Lee. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Michael?
Yes.
Christie? Yes. Lee?
Yes.
Nola?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Heather? Yes.
Motion passes. Next, CPA firm oversight. And so this is what we've been discussing with financial issues and the audit and that type of thing. This quote from Baker Tilly is not small. Did have one roll in today from Riemann as well. So we'll go over those numbers, which are slightly higher. And essentially, what this from Baker Tilly says is that it would be $245 per hour for 10 to 15 hours per month is what they believe would probably be needed. And we went over essentially what we're looking for in a meeting, an online meeting. And they're looking at, in a general way, review of the bank reconciliations, review of other month-end close reports, and a report given to the board. And therefore, at least the way I make the packets, therefore would be public as well. So it obviously could change. But the idea there is that it's a type of outside third party overseeing this so that we don't have issues with an audit a third year in a row. All right, but that's no small amount of money. It's based on their numbers, between $2,250 to $3,375 per month. The numbers that I got from Riemann today, which is another financial firm that does similar services, is about $5,000 per month for similar services, $5,040 per month. But they figure it might take 24 hours each month. The firm that we have working on our finances for the audit currently, Manor Casterison, they will not quote it until the current finances are sorted out. The one strategic CPA, which seemed to have lower numbers, does some municipal type work, but a smaller amount. Also, the given numbers that they have that are just, kind of flat rate for a certain amount, we exceed all of the expenses and revenues for those numbers. So we'd have to have it separately quoted. I believe, didn't you ask them for
I
that?
did, and he was asking for a recent audit to be able to better help me.
Okay, yeah. So I want to look at our audits to see
That's Jason's.
what they would actually show.
That's Jason's.
So Christie has also brought up the idea of just bringing in someone else, one of the other municipalities, employing them some sort of a part-time type of thing to fill that same role with overseeing some of the bank reconciliations, reporting to the board and the public to keep things on the straight and narrow. So that's the basic layout as it is now. Or the information I've been able to collect from her.
How soon do we anticipate having our current problem resolved?
Hopefully Manor is able to do it this month. Manor Casterison. And so Brickley DeLong has sent them a bunch of information. Heather and Christy have sent them a bunch of information. It's obviously a squeeze, which Eric from Brickley DeLong, who does our audit, told me that once you miss your audit week, you're in trouble because it's auditing season. And so everyone that does that work is booked. And so difficult to fit in there. But hopefully Manor Casterison is able to sort out our finances essentially as a pre-audit type of issue this month. And then Brickley DeLong will schedule us once that is done. Brickley DeLong, since missing the audit, they will not schedule us until the current paperwork is sorted out. They were not happy, even though they charged us, they were not happy with wasting a week. And so that will be sometime in October.
Okay, so we deal with who currently?
Brickley DeLong does our audit.
Are we pleased with their services?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Brickley DeLong is fine.
So once we get things sorted out, we would seriously consider a quote from them.
Well, the issue with that is you would then have Brickley DeLong preparing things for themselves to
Yeah,
audit.
we can't do
And
that.
so they wouldn't do that.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
And the firms have to audit each other. So like Manor Casterison has audited Brickley DeLong before. Auditors auditing auditors.
I think Baker Tilly was the one too that had more like a la carte type option, like they could pick it, we can pick and choose what services we wanted. We could pull back some of those things as time progressed without like in the instance that somebody new steps in, they just need it during training, we can pull back some of those things and not have it as frequently.
Correct. Yeah. And Riemann actually in their email just from today was talking about 6 months. So do 6 months, see how things are, then do another 6 months.
But they were significantly higher cost.
5,000 per month.
So we're looking at, this is a decision item for next month or the month after?
Whenever we want to make it a decision item. So, but I want to keep it in our consciousness because it's important. And it's important as the board turns over here. So obviously there's some uncertainty with that, but either way, right? We could end up with a person that has been a major part of the problem for the last 2 years, or we could just end up with someone else that's going through a major learning curve on their own. Right. So either direction, we want to get this next year started decently, and it's coming around kind of near our calendar year, which doesn't align with our fiscal year necessarily, but But nevertheless, we want to go into next audit season in a better fashion for sure. So, and Eric from Brickley DeLong, you know, he said 2 years, we should just get a letter like we did last year from the state saying, hey, you missed your deadline for an audit. We will withhold your revenue sharing if we don't get it done. But then when you get the audit done, they give you state revenue sharing. So it ends up being not that big of a deal. But he said you don't want to push it long term. And I asked him how long that was. And he said 3 or 4 years. So 2 years is kind of, you're on the border of the state deciding to do something. What the state would actually do, he said he would not want to theorize on because there's some unpredictability. But they have a lot of power in that type of situation.
Interesting.
The thoughts on what should I pursue? Do we want more information from something else? Do we want to look at just like individuals that may be able to come in and be hired by the board, report to the board?
Yeah, I would like to look at that.
Yeah.
I can reach out to Jennifer at City of Muskegon who offered to come.
Yeah, useful to at least have the information.
You've worked with him before, Baker Tilly?
Baker Tilly currently audits just our bonds.
We already work with them.
Yeah, so they do a very minor portion.
The only thing about having it be a person and not a organization doing it is that you could fall into the same kind of situation. Like, what if that person, what is their knowledge level? Who's holding them accountable?
You could.
Where with an organization, they have to be accountable to their higher ups and stuff has to get done. Just my point.
Yes.
So another card.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having-
Another thing to manage. They're their own company, separate from here.
Right, having an outside firm, yeah, I mean, an outside firm is not gonna cut us any slack.
Which I think that's
But we-
necessary. I mean, because
I don't think the township has enough money to bribe someone in one of those firms, so I don't think we can.
So,
and in the long run, how much are we gonna be paying this person in? If we can bring somebody in, is it gonna be more than this? I imagine it's gonna be more than
It's a good question. If we bring them in real part-time in some
that's
fashion,
part-time,
then we might be able to go under those numbers.
I guess
But then what quality are you getting?
quality you're getting and how tight are they holding you accountable to?
I would say we go with Baker Tilly. I mean, we deal with them already.
And I will try to get a quote, well, I plan on getting a quote from Manor and Casterison as well. So they just won't quote us with the way our paperwork currently sits. So. All right, anything else on that? Next, we have land combinations with special assessments. This is really an FYI. We've had some combinations go through to add special assessments on them, which is a bit of an issue. Christie was able to get this form, so hopefully in the land combination process, none of those go through without being noticed. And the cons, we're in contact with the bond lawyer that's helped us with our special assessment staff to figure out what to do with the current ones. And hopefully this form sorts out the future ones. If we do have to pass any type of resolution, policy, whatever it is, which I was hoping if we needed something like that, I would have it at this meeting. But since I don't, it's essentially heads up if anything's coming down the line.
Can I explain that a minute?
Yeah, go
What's
ahead.
happening? So we have land combinations where they have two assessments, one on each parcel. So when they combined them, it wasn't, the communication stopped before it got to me and there's an assessment. And now what do I do with the one parcel that no longer exists? What do I do with that assessment? Do I double assess their tax bill for two parcels now? Or can I legally do that? And so we have a form now that before that the combination or split can happen, that it goes through to find out if they have an assessment. And if they do, they will pay it off before that combination happens. So this doesn't happen again. So we have 3 out there right now with that I don't know what to do with an assessment.
And some municipalities just won't let combinations go through unless the assessments are paid off, which would work in some of our cases. It doesn't work in some of our perpetual ones for Cat Brock Johnston as road maintenance contracts and then weed treatments on the lakes. So, but special issues. Next, we have the bike trail project statue. And Justin and I have both looked at this, talked into Rob, who's organizing this, but Tom Lindrup has passed away recently. He did a large part of organizing some of the bike trail activities and everything in the area. This RFP that they're looking at is about putting in a sculpture or a statue. And it kind of explains the situation and some of the history, so it was nice to include. They didn't have all of their numbers exactly included, so there's some question marks in there near the end, but overall it's decent. This has to go through several hoops. One, these organizations have to approve it. They have to raise the funds to make and do a statue. They can't put them anywhere, obviously, they have to get approval. I think it makes sense for the township to approve it. It'll have to definitely go through the Trail Commission, the Berry Junction Trail Commission. And that Trail Commission most likely will follow the lead of the township if it's going inside of this township, because it has the most impact for us.
Okay.
I talked to the County Department of Public Works. We have to make sure that if it went on this intersection on McMillan, it doesn't go on any sewer lines, any water lines. In case there's any maintenance issues, they don't think the weight would be the issue on top of it. But if they have to access it, they don't want to have to chop that statue to get to their line. And then most likely the DNR would also need to sign off on it, or the Trail Commission would like to see that, possibly the Road Commission. So was that a decent explanation, Justin, of the situation, or anything else out there? So it's gonna take a little bit of time to get all of that together, but want to give a heads up, and want to give a heads up to the trail organization that if the board wanted to reject it, say we don't want the statue in this location or on a trail or something like that, I can let them know, and then they can start shifting their plan as well. So I included an aerial view in there. It's south of McMillan is where we have a little parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
And possibly there's a grant out, I think that was through the Conservation District for some wildflowers. Was that the Conservation District? So Justin came up with the idea that some wildflowers could be planted along the bike trail to help with the Conservation Districts trying to get funding for having more monarch butterfly areas and that type of stuff. So that may or may not occur in this area as well.
This is one question, statue that gets out of the Berry Junction Trail budget, or
It would be out of these bike groups. So the Friends group, and there's an associated, the Muskegon County Bicycling Coalition and the Berry Junction Trail Friends group. So these private organizations, however they would want to try to get funds. They might apply for grants. They have some donors, they raise funds in that way. So at least at this time, I haven't considered or would suggest not necessarily considering the township paying to build statues like that. That was your concern, I assume? Yeah. I don't think we should pay for building statues either. So, but if another organization wants to, and they want to go through the hoops of getting our permission or putting it up somewhere, I think that is reasonable. Now, the one thing we do have to consider is ongoing maintenance. Because at some point down the line, you get 20 years from now, it's the people that most likely have funded something like that are probably gone. It's going to be in a right of way where it makes sense for the township to mow around it. So Justin is well aware of that, since him and Greg and Paul and our maintenance crew have to mow around everything now. So it adds a little bit there, but as far as now, we're on board with it. I think it's reasonable. And in the RFP, they have said that they want something that's going to be able to withstand high temperatures and low temperatures to go with Michigan winter. So, and Rob is here if anyone has a question. Do you think I've explained that decently, or is there anything else you want to add? I guess is a good question.
Just that the two groups, the ones the Friends of the Berry Junction Trail, which Don Lindbergh was the first and only president of it for 10 years. And he was instrumental in really in getting that trail completed and putting all the amenities that are along it, benches. And there's a sculpture at the north end of the trail and all that. So that's the one group. The other group is the Muskegon County Bicycling Coalition, which I'm president of that group. I'm also on the board of the the Berry Junction Trail group. And we simply advocate for bicycling throughout the county. And Tom, again, he was instrumental in forming that group. That both groups are 501c3 nonprofits, totally volunteer run. Any money that comes into us goes back out to improve bicycling in this area. We're going to have a small committee, members of both boards and family members. Family would like to see this happen too, to select the artist and the sculpture itself. And we're all pretty passionate about it. As you might understand, that Tom has done so much for this community, the bicycling community, and other things too. He was a sailor, outdoors, involved in other outdoor groups, and we just want to remember him as such.
Any opinions from the board of move forward, don't move forward?
Oh,
Any
move forward,
concerns?
move forward, I love it.
They got a lot of hoops to jump through before then anyway, so just see how it goes.
I love that bike trail. I've used it a lot in the past. Haven't been on it much this year, but gosh, I've been all over the place on my three-wheel recumbent bike. And then, I mean, it's connected me into Muskegon
Right.
and then there were times that I'd have to get off on the bike trail because I wanted to go like to Sam's Club or Breakaway Bikes. And so you end up getting off the trail, but I feel really super safe on the trail where when I have to go on the main roads, I'm telling you, man, all these people and their phones, I'm constantly looking at my mirrors. You know, the bike trail it's a wonderful thing. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next, logo design. And so this has been brought up a few times over the last few years. I've pressed on it. The hands design that came into vogue there for a while doesn't seem to be heavily supported. There's an old, essentially like kind of round branding type of design, which is cookie cutter. There's some other municipalities that have it. You just have a different municipality name inside of the same type of design. Heather has worked on a design that's a little nicer. But also, I think a couple of times in the last couple of years, the idea of doing some sort of contest has also been brought up with the community contest of doing some sort of submitting and selection process. And so I wanted to see if the board is, one, interested in pursuing a logo change, and two, what, if we do, what we would like that process to look like. So one, does anyone think we should pursue changing the logo?
It's outdated.
She's like, yep.
So there's one light yes. Is that?
I'll throw a second yes in there.
Sure. The contest is always a fun thing to get the community involved in.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think that's a
community
good thing. Yeah.
I think that's where the hands came from.
Ah,
No. The hand from Earl Hiddles. He was the supervisor and those were his hands.
Oh,
Yeah, yep, they traced them out and those were his hands, and then they did the different colors to show inclusivity.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, I will not submit my hands.
Yeah.
Or anybody.
I remember stuff.
All right, do we want to pursue arranging some sort of public contest then? Is that the idea? Get community submissions and. Yep. All right, work on that. Next, we have the Dalton Road project. So, and this comes about for two reasons. One, and some emails from a Cedar Creek resident. I expected a Dalton resident to accuse me of just winter improvement, which I mentioned at the time. But the section of Dalton that I live on ended up getting a gravel upgrade. In the section north at M120, obviously, we had turned down. And I just make the case that they're not equivalent because the one is a $14.5 thousand project that the road commission was willing to cover 50% of because it has higher traffic. The other one, the road commission is only willing to cover 25% because it has lower traffic and less access, and is a $109.5 thousand project. So big difference there. So, and then I tracked some of the evidence of that.
Yes.
Another thing is that I've said since I've been in office, border roads are an issue because instead of getting just the county and a township to agree, you have to get two townships and a county all to agree to the same thing. And so it's significantly harder to actually accomplish. And so that if either, and I've only really had discussions on this with Fruitland and Cedar Creek, because Hyde Park and Dawson are our two issue roads. Our southern and northern portions are fine as far as the roads go for now. And I've had discussions with both of them over the last few years, but it's only really Cedar Creek that has pushed or come up with proposals. And Linda, she was very angry. Very angry. There was another meeting where there was physical contact not initiated by me, but it's which is fine. But some of the residents apparently in Cedar Creek were quite angry and upset, and so she caught that flack, and so she relayed that to me. But as I think more people have calmed down now, they still wanted to have the discussion. Although they haven't reached out to me and said they wanted to cover more or anything like that. As far as I can tell, they were relatively insulted by thinking that Cedar Creek should cover a higher percentage. I did point out that it makes sense to attempt to do projects that the road commission wants to do, so you can get 50% covered instead of 25%. And so, but I told her, I'm definitely willing to bring it to the board again. They have backed off trying to push it through this year. I think that was an odd election year type of thing. And so they're looking at what could possibly be budgeted for next year. The issue with this is there's not a good place to back down to. Now, this would be a nice gravel upgrade. It's not your cheapest gravel upgrade. It probably doesn't make sense to just throw more bad dirt down there. And the way the county is going is more of this lime base, which is a better gravel upgrade they use at Nuega. And so it still lays at the $109.5 thousand as far as it goes. But is basically from the board's perspective, is there any way that we can see budgeting for next year, that type of thing? I know there's some uncertainty around the finances as well. And traditionally, this would be about half of the road budget, although recently we've been able to put more towards it. But there's a difference between Cedar Creek and us as well. They have fewer roads overall, and then they have some main roads, so a decent amount of coverage by the county and the state. Dalton Township has a lot of roads, realistically, a lot of dirt roads.
Last week, it was discussed, I think I brought it up, that we survey the citizens that live along that road. Was that even attempted?
We didn't do a survey of the citizens, so I can look at that of like sending out letters, something like that. So, but what are we surveying them of? What are we asking them?
Well, I guess, are they interested in the road improvement, number one? And then number two, if you are interested, are you willing to put up some money towards that project?
And so previously, we haven't done like a special assessment on anything other than paving. We've done special assessments for paving. But I can send out letters.
Well, or somebody that lives on that street that wants it needs to start a petition or something.
Sure.
Like we did on Central.
Right. Yeah, and it was, initially it was discussed as paving. Initially, Cedar Creek had both of those sections of Dawson quoted for pavings. And then I said, we're not doing pavings out of the budget. It'll fry the entire township budget for roads. We won't be able to do any work on any other roads. And so the paving projects that we've done over the last couple of years have been through special assessments. And so people have to really want it. I don't want to stand in the way of special assessments, even though they're a major hassle for us.
Yeah. They're so much fun.
But nevertheless, we've got projects done like that. So, but I can send something out and see if on our side, because most of the feedback that I've had has come from the Cedar Creek side. Even the residents, the people that have talked to me and emailed me and everything have been on the Cedar Creek side.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what our side thinks, what the citizenry thinks.
Anything else on that? So the next is about speed signs, basically the signs that tell you how fast you're going. I had thought about these before. I think we had them in a budget discussion somewhere over the last few years. But they're a decent amount, few $1,000s per easy, especially if you're getting the large kind that you can move around to different locations. Even the kind that you tack up on a pole are not particularly cheap. And they do work to a certain extent, or at least I slow down a little bit usually when I see them. And so I had someone call, a resident called and was concerned with this, thought it should be pursued. And I said, I think that's worthy of consideration in the budget discussion for going into next year. He was concerned that I'm not going to be in the budget discussions for next year. And so after we talked for a while, I said I would bring it to the board now. And so that the board is informed, and I know we have potential board members in the audience as well. Going forward, at least this can be part of the discussion. I still think it makes sense not to move on it extremely quickly, but to plan for it and budget it in if that is something that we want to pursue.
Just randomly, he's saying that, not like a specific road. They're getting after just
It's to be moved
just
around.
more.
I think he had a specific spot in a southwest area of the township somewhere, but was also pointing out that it should be done in multiple different locations.
I think it's a good idea. However, this comes from my former career. I think there needs to be follow-up. I think you put the sign up for a week or two. Gets people aware of the speed in that area. And then if we can coordinate it with our local law enforcement, they come out and do some speed enforcement and reinforce that. I think just throwing the sign up and nobody's there to enforce it doesn't carry any weight.
Right.
It gets your sign ignored.
Exactly.
They're ignored now.
Well, that's true. I agree with that as well.
Anything else on this? Next is our agreement. So this comes up from the large commercial development that's being looked at in the business park. And right now, and I've been in contact with the county, and everyone's fine with calculating the RUs in this fashion, 0.2 RUs per 1,000 square feet. But there is a concern with some of the board members turning over, moving forward. Is someone going to try to change up that deal? Now, the county administration and county head of the Department of Public Works, the deputy administrator and the head of the Department of Public Works, both think that that wouldn't work very well. It should, the calculation should continue no matter who changes out on the board. But obviously, as politics are, it's hard to say that. And the developer probably wants a piece of paper that makes that more reasonable instead of just saying, hey, they said. And so I contacted the township lawyer, and he said he would probably advise in this case having some sort of simple agreement passed by the board. And so it doesn't have to be really extensive. It doesn't have to be particularly fancy, but can just say that this is how we're planning on doing this calculation. Now, in that case, the township board the future township board can still change policies and everything moving forward, can change the rates that RUs are being done. But if there's an agreement on how the calculation is going to occur for this project, this calculation would still have to be there. And realistically, our sewer finances, which were not in great shape a few years ago, are looking good. If this project was to succeed, they're looking very good. So because we're still charging hundreds of thousands of dollars of connection fees.
Is this, I mean, does this fall, this is for your,
Yeah, first week, but yeah.
you would be paying it, would you be paying this or the people that buying it?
I would actually, because we would be developing each building, I would be fronting that money. And we already have an agreement with the whole water side of it. We already have that all locked in for the 160 units. So it's, we know exactly what we're paying for that whole deal. And then we'd like to have the same thing for the sewer side of it. And then have that being paid, the first two buildings, after this, hopefully it will go up in the next, by the end of the month. And then it would be great to have those fees paid per building. And we'd come in and pay those off, knowing that each one down the line would be paid by that.
And realistically, the wastewater system would like to get away from this type of RU. It's an antiquated type of system. based off of residential equivalent units or one normal household size and go more in a metered direction. But you're looking years as they transition over to that. That transition is attempting to occur, but some version of an REU calculation has to take place still as the projects go.
I just, you don't have the, you want to go that way with that area, so you can't really do it.
Correct, yeah.
Do we draw that up or have Skills draw that up?
I already have some simplified wording for him, so, but I just got it early last week. And so we could pay him to turn it into a more formalized version, but realistically, we can just save the money and I can do it.
There we go.
So you basically add some whereas and therefores and you come up
There
with.
you go.
Yeah. Coverage and number of resolutions,
Just wondering.
not that bad. So I will have to use some of the wording from the lawyer to make sure. And the county recommended, county administration from two departments recommended that as well.
I mean, the water side of it, when we went in is literally, we had it spelled out 160 units and the whole thing, and it's calculated out and the whole thing was all paid for based on that. So we knew exactly what we were gonna be into all the way through that whole project, and with elections and everything else, we're like,
Yeah.
we don't lock the sewer in, it could be a mess, down the line somewhere.
So interesting.
Anything else on this? Questions, comments, concerns?
No.
Right, we are to our second public comment section, and actually, Heather, we can bring up the first idea here if you would like. So we recently had, and I just got this wording, I believe it's yet today. The part of the county organization is going for a grant to do some reforesting, planting of trees, and because of the storm. And so they basically want a letter of support from the township to pursue that. Because just recently getting the information, I don't know details of exactly how that is going to go. But at this time, they basically want a letter of support, which is a pretty general statement that they've drawn up saying, there was a storm, we lost some trees, we would like a grant to plant some more trees in the area.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to do a letter of support.
Yeah, to me, it's pretty similar to what we did for, like, we reached out to a bunch of nursing homes and stuff when we were trying to do the park. Because we needed letters of support. So I think it's just
It's similar to that.
helping an agency be able to do good things, and all it takes is us putting our name on some letters, and then they can plant some trees for us.
All right. Any other public comments on anything?
I'll try to make this quick. The logo design, I know there's websites out there. I've seen it very successful, $50 for a project of 150 logos. It's worth pursuing. Speed sign. Have you talked to the county to see if they have a portable trailer mounted sign to see how effective that would be? I did the same thing with speed signs and actually purchased them. There's a lot more to it besides just buying a sign. You have to have county commission, you have to have power or a solar pack, a trailer to put them on if you want to move them out. I think just offer and check with the county, see if they have one and see how successful it is before you invest in it. The last thing is, I think it's time to move our government towards, at least our local government, towards a superintendent. I mentioned it to a couple of trustees. A superintendent could take a lot of the weight off the elected officials. It would necessitate probably giving up some of the pay for them because you would have to pay the salary. But you have, right now with elected officials, there's no recourse if they don't do their job, if they don't want to resign. You can fire a superintendent that's not doing their job. Superintendents are trained to run municipal governments. There's nobody at this table that starts out trained. You learn as you go along. And I know, I've been there. And it's not a bad thing to learn. But if you hire somebody fresh out of college, their first job, they know how to do this job, they know what to watch for, they can take a lot of the weight off the elected officials, and they're accountable to the board, and they can be fired tomorrow if they don't do their job, instead of waiting for somebody to resign, not having other people bring it up, and just kind of be swept under the carpet. So we don't want to be in that position again. It's my intent to pursue this. I hope you guys will discuss this and pursue this, because I will be pursuing this. But I think that's, at this point, I think that's where the government needs to go. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Yeah, all right, so I'll move in the back.
Karen Fowler, 2769 Middle Lake Road. You said that your problems will be resolved this month. What happens with the election?
What about the election?
I mean, is the clerk going to be on the ballot?
Tracy, yes.
And what happens then?
For the election, well, she's unopposed, so she'll win the election, then she has to decide on whether she's taking the position or not. If she takes the position, obviously, she's in, and if she doesn't take the position, then we'll have to wait for that swearing period to expire. And I say I'll be changing out too, and then the board would have to appoint.
So based on the performance, nothing can be done.
So most likely not. Now, there is a motion being filed by our lawyer to pursue an investigation for misconduct in office. But that's not going to exclude her from being on the ballot for sure. And most likely, it depends on how the investigation goes, but most likely afterwards, I doubt it would exclude.
Has the Attorney General been informed?
The
about
Attorney
this
General
issue?
has been informed.
Okay. My other thing is, we have a Twin Lake Historical Museum. I've been here about it before. We are open every Sunday between 10:30 and 11:30. And through the library, you can make an appointment to someone is contacted and would be there to meet you any other time that you wanted to visit. It's coming along, very interesting. If you know of anyone who's been here for a long time and would like to participate in this or have their family not investigated, but contribute things to our museum, we love it.
Another option too is that somebody could file as a write-in candidate. So if you go down to the county, somebody could go and register as a valid write-in candidate. And then that, at least there would be some other votes.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other public comments? Any board comments? As we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a support? Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
I have notes.